The sound of the guitar string snapped the silence before the guards ever did. Inside Mississippi State Penitentiary, better known as Parchman Farm, music has always meant more than entertainment. It was survival. It was leverage. And sometimes it was evidence. If stories like this fascinate you, hit subscribe, because this one only gets darker. The chains were already locked around his ankles when the first note echoed across the barracks. Heavy iron scraped against concrete as he shifted, steadying the guitar on his knee. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, humming like insects trapped in glass. Around him, inmates leaned forward in silence. Some closed their eyes. Others watched the guards instead of the musician. At Parchman, you never forgot who was listening. The song was soft. It had to be. In a prison designed to crush resistance, even a quiet melody carried weight. And weight, inside Parchman, always came with consequences. For decades, men arrived here already knowing the reputation. The open fields under the Mississippi sun. Armed towers watching rows of inmates bend and move in rhythm. The unspoken rule that survival depended on usefulness or invisibility. Music somehow offered both. This wasn't supposed to be a performance. It was supposed to be controlled, approved, watched. But the moment that string snapped, everything changed. Because that sound meant something had gone wrong. Parchman was built on a plantation model, and it never truly let go of it. Long after other prisons modernized, this place clung to isolation and routine. Days blurred together, wake-ups before dawn, forced labor stretching across acres of land, meals eaten quickly and without conversation. Music slipped through the cracks. Some men sang while they worked. Others tapped rhythms against tools, bed frames, their own chests. Eventually, prison officials noticed something important. Music didn't just calm inmates. It made them easier to manage. Singing work lines moved faster. Guitars in the barracks lowered tension. Blues performances for visitors made the prison look almost humane. So a few musicians were given privileges. Less time in the fields. Extra indoor hours. Access to instruments. Occasionally, permission to perform for journalists or officials documenting authentic prison culture. That attention came at a price. The man at the center of this story entered Parchman like thousands before him, processed, numbered, stripped of identity. What separated him wasn't fame, at least not yet. It was talent. The kind that stopped conversations. The kind that made guards hesitate before shouting. At first, it felt like protection. Then came the transfer. One afternoon, without warning, he was pulled from his work detail. No explanation. No paperwork he could see. One guard muttered something about orders. Another avoided eye contact. His guitar was taken for inspection. He was led through corridors that smelled of bleach and sweat, deeper into the prison, away from faces he recognized. That night, he didn't play. Silence spread faster than rumor. Inside Parchman, silence was never neutral. It meant fear, or control, or both. When the music returned, it wasn't the same. He was back in the barracks with a guitar, but his posture had changed. He played quieter, avoided certain songs. When another inmate asked for an old favorite, he shook his head and stared at the floor. Guards lingered during performances now, leaning against doorways, arms crossed, watching him instead of the crowd. This wasn't protection anymore. It was ownership. Parchman had long understood that talent could be exploited just like labor. Music softened the prison's image. It turned suffering into folklore, pain into culture, and the men who created it rarely controlled how it was used. He was told his songs would be recorded. Not for him, for the prison. The sessions took place in a bare room with a single microphone. No contract. No explanation. He was told which songs to play. Songs about work. About chains. About loss. When he tried to introduce something different, the session ended. "That's not what we need," someone said from behind the glass. What they needed was control. Other inmates noticed the pressure immediately. He stopped eating with them. Guards pulled him aside during count. Quiet conversations followed by silence. Rumors spread. Some said he was being punished, others said he was being protected. At Parchman, The truth was usually worse. The tension built slowly, like heat before a storm. Then came the incident. During an evening performance meant to calm a restless barracks, a fight broke out near the back. Shouting, movement, boots rushing in. Guards flooded the room. In the chaos, someone knocked the guitar from his hands. It hit the concrete hard. That's when the strings snapped. The sound cut through everything. Inmates were dragged out one by one. Names shouted. Numbers recorded. When the room finally cleared, he stood alone, staring at the broken guitar at his feet. That night, he was taken again. This time, there was no instrument. For weeks, no one saw him. His bunk stayed empty. His name vanished from call lists. Guards shrugged when asked. Transferred. Segregation. Not your concern. But his music didn't disappear. Recordings began surfacing outside the prison. Raw blues tracks labeled with Parchman's name. Critics praised the authenticity, the suffering, the sound of real incarceration. His name was missing. Inside the prison, tension escalated. Without music, fights increased. Work lines slowed. Guards grew harsher. The system had removed its pressure valve. Then, quietly, he returned. Thinner. Quieter. Eyes hollow. He said nothing about where he'd been. When a repaired guitar was handed back weeks later, he didn't touch it. Only later did fragments of the truth emerge. The transfer wasn't routine. It was punishment. He had resisted recording more songs without knowing where they would go. He asked about ownership, about release, about whether he would ever hear himself on the outside. Those questions were treated as defiance. He was placed in isolation. No music, no contact, concrete walls, steel doors, time stretching until it lost meaning. When he was finally returned, the message was clear. Play, or disappear again. He played, but something inside him never came back. Years passed. Some inmates were released. Others died inside. Parchman continued its routines, its traditions, its quiet exploitation. The recordings lived on, studied and admired by people who would never feel chains tugging at their ankles during a song. Eventually, the musician left Parchman. Not famous. Not compensated. He carried memories that never made it onto tape. Nights in isolation. The fear of losing the one thing that gave him identity. The knowledge that his music helped soften the image of a place designed to break him. Parchman remains a symbol of punishment, of history, of systems that blur the line between preservation and exploitation. The music born there still echoes, but it carries more than melody. It carries unanswered questions. Who owns suffering? Who profits from survival? And how easily control can be disguised as opportunity. In prison, even a song can become a sentence. And sometimes, the most haunting silence comes after the music stops. If you think this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe for more prison documentaries that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.